For those of you wondering why I haven't posted any videos for the last few weeks, I got caught up in the Malibu fires, which is where I live. On the morning the fire started, this is the view that I awoke to. Malibu is under a mandatory evacuation, so I packed up a few things and got in the car to leave Malibu. You can see the fire here coming over the hills. This is about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. You can see here the queues of traffic and everything trying to get out of Malibu. So, it took about 3 hours to get, what would normally be a half-hour drive away. And all the time the clouds of smoke getting closer and closer. I was going away for the weekend. This was a Friday, so I got a flight to meetings I was having over the weekend. This is the view out of the plane window as I left, and you can see just how big the fires were getting. And overnight I saw reports on the news of just how far it had spread and realised that my house was in danger of being affected for sure. So, and then here's some videos my neighbour shot who was staying behind. He actually stayed behind, ignored the evacuation, and used garden hoses to try and keep the fire away from our properties. So here you can see the fire. This is a view from our land across the PCH, the Pacific Coast Highway, and you can see here the fire is burning on the far side of the Pacific Coast Highway, and all these fire trucks are just ignoring it. The fire's so big and so widespread, they're just driving straight past. So the fire jumped the PCH, burnt a couple of acres of our land, and the neighbour, the next morning, he sent video that showed him staying behind and trying to put out the fire right on the edge of our property. And this is that video. You can see here stacks of stuff on fire, the walls all burnt. You can see he's just dumping as much water as he can to stop this wall from the trees behind the wall catching fire. You can see here how much has burnt already. So he's been fighting this. He was up 40 hours straight trying to keep the fire at bay because the fire trucks had other fires to deal with. You can see here the fence is all burnt down, the land is all scorched. You can see right off into the distance there how much he's having to deal with, and he's just constantly spraying. This is a neighbour of ours called Dan, to desperately try and stop the trees from catching fire, because these trees, once they catch fire, they would spread obviously from tree to tree very, very quickly. And it's already spread an awful long way to get to here. It's burnt, like I said, about 2 acres. You can see there the fence again on fire. So this was critical. If these trees caught fire, it would burn all the rest of the properties. So he's working really, really hard here to try and keep the fire from spreading any further than it already has. So obviously I heard that he'd kept the fire away from the house, so I jumped on the first flight I could back to LA. This is on approach. You can see how much smoke there is in the air. And then I got my boat. I own a boat. I took it to near the house. I swam ashore and immediately had to start fighting fires on this bank. This is the bank below our house. You can see it's completely burnt away, and there was fires straight away that I had to fight in my bare feet because I didn't have time to put shoes on from swimming ashore, and you can see the state of my feet and these fires popping up the whole time. So I spent time fighting the fires. All the time you've got this threat of other fires starting up. You see all this smoke coming back across, and then as the sun set and it went dark, you could just see loads of embers burning. The winds would whip up again and start putting the embers. So we just took it in shifts, sleeping an hour at a time, trying to put out the fires. And here you can see exactly how far it got. That was the PCH being burnt. This is the land at the front of our house. You can see this is all completely burnt away here. You can see where it was stopped by a hose. This is a neighbour's property, and we would just do laps for days, just putting out fires, keeping it from catching any more and burning down the houses. This is some construction that was going on for one of our neighbours. You can see it's completely burnt away. This construction area is all burnt. And these trees, catching fire and burning down, and then all the embers would just keep spreading. So we'd just do laps. We'd just walk around here. On the first day that I was there, I walked 17 miles, just doing laps of the properties, putting out fires that would just start up from nothing. You'd suddenly come around the corner, there'd be a bush on fire. You can see just how much is burnt here. This is all the way down to the beach below, and all this land is completely burnt away, up to the edge there. I'll move to a different area here, which again is at the side of our property. You can just see how much has burnt away. And obviously the Malibu fire, or the fire, burnt nearly 100,000 acres. So it was a devastating fire. You can see here it's just burnt away. This is as I move back towards our property. You can see all this is burnt up to here, and this wall, this white wall here, is the edge of our, the land I'm on at the minute is part of our property, but that wall is right next to the house, and you can see it's burnt all the way up these trees, 20-30 feet up these trees, and the neighbour has kept it from crossing over that wall, which is critical. So this is land between, on the left, a neighbour's house, and on the right is our property, and you can see here it's just burnt, all of this woodland, all of this ground, and this is like 2 or 3 inches of kind of mulch on the ground here, and it would just keep burning for days and days and days. So it was an endless task, just dumping water on top of all these embers, for fear that they would just spark up and blow across and set off a whole other fire. So not a lot of sleep. So yeah, this is all burnt down. You can see this is all burnt away. And if we look across this way, you can see all this ground is burnt. Just so much destruction. The fence is all burnt away. And we were incredibly lucky. So this is the wall you saw in the early video where he was dumping water on this wall to try and stop it crossing over. And you can just see how burnt this is, and all the vines have burnt away. But he did manage to stop it. He did manage to stop it crossing the wall. Even though the trees here, if you look up here, there's trees, and it's burnt all the way up these trees. Somehow they didn't all just catch and burn away. So if you just look at how many trees there are here, this wall of trees was on fire but didn't catch enough to get away from him, and that would have burnt all the way down there. And if I cross to the other side of the wall, you'll get an idea of exactly how lucky we were, because this is the other side of the wall. Here's the tree that was on fire, and there's our house, there's our property right there. So you're looking at that gap, that's what, 10-15 feet away. So we were just incredibly lucky, and I know hundreds of other people weren't lucky, but I'm so thankful for the neighbour. Here's part of the rescue efforts or the firefighting efforts. These helicopters would fly along and suck water up big tubes and then dump it out. And then on the sort of second or third day, you got these guys, and these are called super soakers. And these are planes that are flown right down low over the ocean. These are crazy. The pilots are so skillful here. And they'll fly into the water. They'll keep flying, and while they're flying, scooping up water into the plane itself, which must really unbalance it. I mean, the amount of water sloshing around in there while you're trying to fly, not crash and everything else. And then without stopping, they'll just fly back up into the air and fly off towards the fire. And meanwhile, another plane will come in here and do the same thing, and they'll just keep fighting the fire by dumping water and collecting water from the ocean. Here you can see they're trying to restore the power lines because they're all burnt up, and they went to great lengths. Here's a helicopter with one of these sort of power poles, and just flying them away. So just to get them out the area. So they would bring in the poles, they'd replace them, and then they'd just fly the old ones away. Which is amazing, seeing how this all goes. And then this is some of the destruction around Malibu that I saw when I had time to go out there and just see. You can just see the level of destruction of these houses. This is how lucky we were. This could easily have been our home, and we're so lucky that, like I said, the neighbour fought it off when he did. So yeah, I mean, this is devastating. This is people's homes. And then, we got trapped in this area. Secret Service turned up because we had this guy visit who wanted to come and see what all the fuss was about. So yeah. Anyway, this is how how once we were cut off, this is how supplies were brought in, because we were stuck in Malibu. And so this is how Malibu does relief efforts. You can see here the boats come in, and then these surfers would surf out with their surfboards, paddleboards, whatever, and get the water and essential supplies, so that the people who had stayed behind to fight the fires, people who had stayed to look after their houses, could actually eat and drink. It was a good, I think, 10, 11 days before I was able to leave Malibu. So, these guys would resupply. They'd set up these relief shelters with tons of stuff so we could eat, and I was very thankful for being able to get there. So anyway, that's the story of the Malibu fires and why I haven't been on YouTube for a while. But Malibu itself has changed for sure, and we're just so grateful for all the people who fought the fires and kept so many people safe.